Hello and happy Thursday. Welcome to another Lunch and Learn with Purse Strings. My name is Maggie and I'm a partner here at Purse Strings. And today we have Michelle Schroeder on talking about this year. I'm going to sell my home. For those of you who are new here, we do these Lunch and Learns every Thursday talking about tips, tricks, get those wheels turning about different things. And then when you're ready to sell your home, buy a home, start, get your wills, start planning for retirement, working on your budget, all these good things. We have top tier financial professionals willing, ready, and able to serve you. We call those our Purse Strings approved professionals, and Michelle Schroeder is one of them. So we're so excited to have her on today to talk about this year. I'm going to sell my home. But before we dive into all the fun, Michelle, could you give a little intro of who you are and what you do?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on today. My name is Michelle Schroeder, and I am a realtor with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services Chicago. And I help people achieve real estate goals. So, whether you're a buyer or a seller or an investor, you're looking to rent, buy, sell, invest, learn more about the real estate market. I'm your go-to in the Chicagoland area. I have two business partners, and together we service pretty much all of Chicagoland, anywhere within the city and the surrounding suburbs. I do both a combination of residential and commercial. So whether you're looking for a home for yourself or a home for your business, which is equally as important, we are your resource.
Awesome. Well, we're so excited to have you on today and to kind of dive into this, selling your home. That's a big deal to do. So if anyone's tuning in and has any questions along the way, feel free to throw them in the chat. If you're watching the replay, you can still throw them on the comments and we'll be happy to come back and answer those for you. So to dive in, what's the market like right now? Is it a good time to even sell your home?
So we are still in a seller's market. And you might say, well, I don't know. I've been hearing a lot in the media about the real estate market. And the way that we define a seller's market versus a buyer's market is based on the amount of available inventory in relation to the number of buyers in the market and how long it would take that number of buyers to buy up all of the inventory. And so typically speaking, 0 to 4 months is going to be a seller's market. Somewhere between 5 and 6 months is considered balanced, and more than 6 months is going to be considered a buyer's market. So we're less than 4 months inventory. We're actually still around 2 to 3 months inventory. So it is still a seller's market, but I'm actually calling it a win-win market because rates are still historically low. I know that they're higher than they have been the last 2 years, but if you look across historically what mortgage rates have been, I mean, my parents purchased, I think, like 18%. So we're not in double digits. We're in the low single digits. And rates have, actually stabilized and softened a little bit the last couple of weeks. I saw a rate with a 5 in front of it the other day. So, I think it's a win-win market because buyers are still getting historically low interest rates. Sellers are still, getting the equity that they've built up in the property over the last couple of years. So whether you are looking to buy or sell, I think that the market, you can't time the market. You can time your life. And so there's a saying, date the rate, marry the house. So, is it still a good time to sell? Yes, because there's buyers out there that need to buy. They are tired of renting. They're tired of paying. Rent goes up every year. So there's buyers that have had life changes that are, need more space or need a yard for their dog or lots of reasons why. So we're definitely seeing activity. I actually just got a few texts from some buyers this morning asking me, when we thought more inventory was going to be coming on the market. So if you're looking to sell, inventory is what we need. So we're looking for sellers. We're connecting with sellers right now to get some inventory onto the market.
Awesome. Well, we love that it's a great time to sell. And I can't believe, 18% for a mortgage like your parents had. But yeah, you can always get a new mortgage and refinance it to get that lower percent. But that's wild to me. So 5% is nothing.
Yeah, 5-6%, that's like historically low. Even 7% is half what it was. I mean, we've seen rates around the 5 to 7% range for like the last, I mean, going back 7, 8 years even. So
Wow.
it's pretty good. I mean, they've stayed around this rate. Now they might they go a little bit lower, maybe.
Yeah.
But it's with inventory being as low as it is, it's important to find the home that you want and make an offer on that home, because with inventory being low, you can't just say, oh, well, I'm going to wait, 6 months or a year, and then I'll go get the house that I want. The house that you want might not be available.
Right. Right. So let's say you're ready to sell your home. Can you take us through the steps to kind of get started there?
Absolutely. So obviously, first things first, you meet with a realtor like myself, and I'm going to want to come see the property. I do some introductory phone calls or maybe even a Zoom call with some prospective sellers sometimes just to get the conversation started, but it's going to be really hard for me to give you an accurate market value without seeing the property in person. So I'm going to come see it, and I'm not there to judge cleanliness level or organization level. I'm really just looking at the property and the space, and then we're going to talk about what the market value of the property is. Positioning your home properly in the market is key, especially in a market like this where buyers are very aware of a heightened interest rate, and they're aware that purchase price has gone up significantly over the last few years. So if a property is overpriced, it is going to sit. And likewise, you don't want to undersell yourself. You want to get the most that you can for your property. So finding that middle ground, that fair market value, is really going to be the key to success. So we always talk about the numbers first. And then when it comes to how do I get my property ready, we have a whole team of people that we work with, from cleaners, painters, contractors, and I also bring in a staging consultant. Her name is also Michelle, so it makes it easy.
The little duo.
Yes, I had a meeting with her and a seller this morning. It's a great 2-bed, 2-bath property. It's on a cul-de-sac that actually has direct beachfront access. So it's going to be a great property when we get it on the market. And the reason why we have a staging consultation, we have 2 methods. If you're going to be living in the property, we want to, while you're selling it, we want to tailor the property and depersonalize it as much as we can so that new buyers can imagine themselves in the property. That's not to say that your personal style or art or things aren't great. They are, but we want to neutralize your home a bit, and we're probably going to declutter. Everyone has to do it. And so the staging consultation can be to work with what is existing if you're going to live in the property, and maybe we bring in some supplemental pieces. Or if you're planning on moving out completely before we list the property, then we have a different service where we do the staging consultation. We talk about what furniture we're going to bring in to stage the property and get it ready for photos. Either way, we're going to make sure that the property looks the best that it can. It's going to be shown in its best light. If there's any painting that needs to happen, if there's, we're going to do a deep clean. We're going to have professional photos taken, floor plans, video. The property is going to be marketed to its highest potential.
It makes so much sense, because as a person, like, I'm not a very visual person. So seeing, how the bed fits and these different things is so essential for, people who can't visualize it. So I could see why bringing in some of these staging people or decluttering is so important, because I know you have the eye, but you're so in this all the time. But to me, I'm like, there's no way, 2 twin beds will fit. And of course they fit, no problem, whatever it may be.
Yes. And that's a good point. I mean, the reason why we do all of this is because your photos that you take and your marketing materials that you put together, and the minute that listing goes live on the internet, that's your first impression of your property. And first impressions matter a lot. They matter person to person, and they definitely matter for properties as well. And if you see a property, I'm sure that you've looked at properties on Zillow or Redfin or Realtor.com, and we've all seen bad listing photos, right? And we're like, oh, I can't believe they posted that. Well, we don't want that to ever happen with any of our properties. So there's more work that you do getting ready to go live for listing as a seller. But then once it's live, showings, open houses, contracts sold. So it's
some of the
once
photos
you
out
get
there
it live,
are,
it's no problem.
yeah, some of those photos out there are amazing in a bad way. But I know you don't let that happen.
Not on my watch.
And so I know sometimes, we talk about projects that we should do on our house before we sell it. And so what kind of projects are worth the investment versus others where you're not going to kind of see that return and it's really unnecessary?
So, there's definitely some projects that there's two types of value out there, right? So there's like going to be your appraised value, what's going to matter to an appraiser. And then there's buyer value or market value that's going to matter to a buyer. And one of the number one things that I like is always top of my list that I think almost every property needs, unless it's been recently done, is painting. A fresh coat of paint, even if you're not changing colors. Like let's say all of your colors are on trend and work with the space and we don't feel like we need to change colors, just some touch-up paint really makes a difference. Buyers have a very critical eye right now, and they really don't want to do any work. They want move-in ready. So you have to, you're selling a product. Your product is your home, and the potential purchasers of your home, you have to know something about that buyer pool. You have to know what their likes and dislikes are. And fresh coat of paint, it does wonders for a space. I highly recommend it. It's the best use of your money. Now, if you have some extra money to spend and you can, let's say your kitchen or bathroom needs some minor improvements. I'm not saying full gut, take it down to the studs renovation, but there's some minor things that can make improvements, maybe changing out hardware or changing some light fixtures, or there's different things that we could do. So it's really specific to the space, but there's definitely refinishing hardwood floors or maybe updating some tile. Those are more manageable, not going to break the bank kind of projects that have big impact because they're visual.
Definitely. Yeah. You can see when the floors are nice and brown again and the walls are all clean. It does look more fresh, more open, more airy sometimes, making it like a bigger space.
Yeah, for sure.
So if you're ready to sell your home and you don't have your next home lined up, like what do you do there? What do you kind of recommend? It seems, that's always the funny thing about housing to me is it's that domino effect of, you need one to move into typically.
Yes. No, and it is challenging. The market was moving at such a fast pace the last 2 years that it was challenging, but we got it done because we work with buyers and sellers. So I highly recommend, if you can, working with the same agent because they can really help you fine tune those negotiations on both sides of the transaction. And they're going to know intimately what your timeline is like. So, sometimes the sale of your home and the purchase of your new home, sometimes those happen simultaneously on the same day. So getting all of that lined up so that the funds are where you need them to be and all the coordination happens the way you need it to be. There are some tools that we can use. So as a seller, you can do what's called post-closing possession, where you sell your home and then you might stay in it for a couple weeks, a month, and you basically pay rent to the buyers of your home in order to account for that overlap of you moving into your new space. And, again, just starting the process. Like if let's say that you wanted to sell in the fall, but you might want to buy prior to selling your home, or at least explore that option, then we should be talking now and be getting advantage of the spring market and seeing what's out there, seeing if the inventory is meeting your needs, and then talking about plans so that we can create a successful transaction plan for you.
It does seem very much easier, much more logical to kind of have that same person help you sell your house and then help you buy a new house. Because like you said, they intimately know, what's kind of going on there, what your timeline looks like, what kind of your goals are in that situation. Because moving everything is a lot of work, but having someone kind of on your team guiding that process, knowing the ins and outs is super helpful.
Definitely.
And so I know when you sell a house, the number one thing is these home inspections, getting inside the home and really inspecting it. So how do you kind of prepare for that?
Well, and it's important that you know a little bit about your home, right? And if you don't, then there are some options. So in Illinois, we have what's called disclosures. So we have to disclose the condition of the property to any potential buyers. And you have to be truthful on that. So if you've done regular maintenance on your home, then hopefully there's no known issues. If there are known issues, then we have to disclose that. But you also have the opportunity of potentially fixing that. So, I've gone into homes where my client, the seller, is like, oh, everything's fine, but there's this like outlet that doesn't work anymore, and we're not sure why it doesn't work. Well, we might want to have that taken, have the electrician take a look at that. It could only be like as much as like $100 to $200 to have an outlet fixed. And then that's one less thing that's going to show up on the inspection report, right? So if there's small, minor things that we can take care of just to kind of clean up the condition of the property, I usually do recommend that. I've even had some sellers have a home inspector come through and do an inspection of their home prior to listing it live on the market so that they know what's going to come up. And then they can decide if there's any projects that they want to complete. The only caveat there being, if you have the inspection done, then that informs you as the seller of all these things. So then you also have to disclose them. So, you have to decide what you want to do. I always recommend keeping maintenance logs for this very reason. So all my new buyers, when they move into their home, I always recommend just start a maintenance log now. Every time you do something, just write it down in your maintenance log. And then that way, 5-7 years from now, if you want to sell your home, we have a record of all the things that you've done, improvements that you've made. You had the furnace checked every 6 months. That's great. We can let buyers know that. So this is why maintenance logs are really important, because when it does come time for the inspection, you want to be prepared. And the honest truth is that things come up on all homes on inspection reports, even new construction. Even my home, even my inspector's home, things are going to come up on the inspection report because that's just the nature of it. But it's managing what items are coming up. Are they due to the age of the property? Are they due to a lack of maintenance, deferred maintenance, that sort of thing? So those are the types of questions that buyers typically have, and that's what you as a seller want to make sure that you're prepared for.
So when is the inspection process typically? I know you said some people do it before they even put their house on the market. What's like the norm?
Well, the buyer is the one who hires the inspector during the process. So you go under contract, and then according to the contracts that we use in Chicagoland, within the first 5 business days, an inspection is supposed to take place. So the buyer and their agent are going to, arrange it with a home inspector to come out to the property. They're going to pay the inspector. So the buyer is the one that receives the report during the actual sale process. The seller's team doesn't actually receive any copy of the report unless the buyer is going to ask for the seller to make repairs or provide a credit. If the buyer is going to ask for the seller to make repairs or provide a credit, then oftentimes just that section of the report will be provided to the seller so that they have the context of what needs to happen.
Got it. Awesome. And then my last question for you is there a perfect time to go on the market? Now that we're all prepared and all this good stuff, Michelle, what's the perfect time?
I say the perfect time is when you're ready. We're at an 11-week high with residential contracts right now. And that's because more and more inventory has been coming on the market post the ends of the holidays and all of that sort. So, if your property is priced properly, marketed well, beautifully staged and photographed, it's going to sell. So whether you put that on the market today, February 14th, March 7th, April 31st, the day that you pick doesn't matter so much as far as is the property ready? Now, what I have seen is that sometimes people rush it. We do define the spring market in Chicagoland as right after the Super Bowl. So that's when the
It's
spring
coming
market
up.
opens up. Yes. So, and the reason for that has historically always been that if you listed your property just after the Super Bowl, then it would sell, by spring. So that's when properties took 2 to 3 months to sell. We've obviously seen a much more fast moving market the last 2 years, but I think we're back at a pace where about 30 to 45 days is an average market time for properties. Again, that depends. Is what your property is what a lot of buyers are looking for? Is there something unique about it? Is your property in need of renovation? If, like I said earlier, if there's a lot of work that needs to be done, today's buyers are looking for move-in ready typically. So you might have to have your property on the market a little bit longer if it does need some renovation work. So I think managing expectations is the biggest thing that goes into all of this. No one person or property is going to be exactly the same as another. And there's no one size fits all when it comes to creating a successful real estate plan. So I always tell people, like, let's make a custom plan for your success. And that's going to be based on whatever your specific buyer needs are or whatever your specific property is to sell it, to maximize it to its potential value. Some properties like the one I had this morning, 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, beach access, it's going to be pretty easy to sell.
Yeah.
But other properties, either because of the location, the size of the property, maybe the room layout is kind of unique. Sometimes we have to get creative. And there's ways of doing that where we can really show the maximum highest potential of the property and help people visualize. There's things like virtual staging. So let's say a property does need renovation and we're not going to bring physical staging into the space for some reason. Well, we can use virtual staging to show you different wall colors, show you what a new kitchen layout would look like, show you what, if we move this wall and reconfigured this room, this is what it could look like. So virtual staging has opened up a lot of the visual piece, which I think is really helpful to buyers as well. So long story short, there's no perfect time to market it. If your property is ready now, then I would say just go on the market now. If your property isn't quite ready and you feel like you need another couple weeks or another month, then I say take those extra couple weeks, extra month. Make sure your first impression is how you want it to be so that you're getting top dollar. And then what are your, how does the timing of the sale or the purchase benefit you? What's going on in your life? If you're like, hey, I have this, really big work project that I'm working on and it really wouldn't work for me to have showings until March. Okay, well then we're going to wait to list your property in March because we're not, we don't want to list it and then say, hey, we can't accommodate showings. So it's all about having those conversations and really understanding what's best for you as the client and then tailoring the process to that.
Just like everything, we're all, we might think it's just another routine home selling process, but it's not. We're all unique. We're not cookie cutter. And so we have to, work with our professionals to really make that process, specialized for us, our home, our family, and our needs, which I love that you guys do because it is so important. And that first impression is also very important.
It is. And, if I could just share an example story.
Yeah.
So there was a property that was listed for sale last year. I had originally met with the sellers and then a friend of theirs who was an agent that was from the suburbs but wasn't super familiar with the Logan Square, Bucktown area, had made an agreement with them to list their house. So they went with their friend, which, I understand people have friends in the business and I totally understand. Most people know at least 2 or 3 realtors. So
yeah,
I totally understand. So they listed the property in March of last year. And by September, it had not sold. And Logan Square, Bucktown is a pretty popular area. You would think a property in that area would sell. And truthfully, it came down to the projects that I recommended, painting and staging. And so I came in with my team of contractors and painters, we, painted the place. We had some new tile installed in the foyer that really made a huge difference. A couple of new light fixtures. The hardwood floors were sanded and restained, and brought in new staging, new photos, and it was like night and day. We had 1 weekend of open houses. It sold for full list price. So it took us, me and my team, a month to get the property ready. And then as soon as it went on the market, it sold. So that's just an example of how all the proper prior planning really does matter.
That's a great story. Yeah. And you want someone who really specializes in all these areas, has the eye. So I'm glad you shared that, because it really shows the difference of having, a true expert in that location, in that area, and what they do. So that's awesome. That's awesome. I feel like we covered a ton of great content today. Is there anything that we didn't touch on that you want to make sure is shared?
No, I think that you had great questions, and I would just encourage anyone that has questions to reach out.
Yeah.
I love having conversations with people. Like, reaching out to me and asking some questions is not like a contract that you have to sign to
Now you're selling your home.
No. I want to be a resource. And whether you're a buyer or seller, curious about the market, curious about what steps you need to take to get started, would love to have the conversation.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, Michelle, for coming on today. Please reach out to Michelle. Her email's going through the bottom here, Michelle Schroeder at bhhschicago.com. She's also one of our Purse Strings approved professionals, so you can check her out on our site, pursestrings.co. And good luck to anyone who's going to sell their home this year. So we'll be back here again next week, but until then, stay financially fearless.
Thank you.